Hey guys, welcome to Spark of Art episode 4. My guest today is Ahmed Aldoori. Hey Ahmed,
Hey, what's up, Ozan? Thanks
glad
for having me.
yeah, glad to finally have you, man. Big fan.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So, let's see. How you been doing these days, man?
Well, I'm pretty dang good. I mean, since we last hung out in Thailand, what,
Uh
3 years ago?
oh
It was
yeah, it
so
is
long
true.
ago.
Yeah, a long time
Yeah,
ago.
thanks for showing me around, by the way.
Yeah.
And
Cheap food.
it was,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, dude, the food was so good. But yeah, I've been really good. Spending a lot of time keeping up with the back end of things for the course. I'm just juggling a lot of things.
Yeah, that one
But
I think that took a
yeah.
while to make though, right? Because I saw
hmm
all the amount of information people are sharing. That took like a year or so, no?
Well, I've been planning it for a long time, but I really got down to start writing and planning it out. Uh, from the start time, it was like maybe like 6 months, and then planning, and then it took about 1 month to actually record and edit everything.
Oh, awesome. For people who don't know, Ahmed has a new course. You can talk about it if you want, but like definitely check it out. Like for what I've been seeing, it's amazing, and people the feedback and everything I'm seeing is like really really
Yeah,
positive.
I thought people were going to be like, "Huh, I don't like it," but really, it's been going really well. I wanted to do something a little bit differently, and instead of just hey, here's a recorded video of me painting in time lapse, I wanted to do a sort of gamified version of what learning is like. So I designed a map like an
Yeah, that's
MMORPG.
exactly what I'm telling to people. Like it's like a Dark Souls of
Yeah,
digital brain learning.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so each part of the map, like especially in the beginning, is the fundamentals, and you can't get to the end of the map, the final boss of like painting or concept art, until you've done all these nodes. And so each node, it's me with these very easy to follow videos with assignments to actually, you know, help you understand it through repetition. Because I think theory is really important. Like, hey, you have to understand this and like how a cylinder works because of this and that. But the part to drive it home is the assignment. And so, based on what I was teaching at Art Center College of Design, as well as what I've used in the industry, um, I put it all together as a package for pretty much anyone to be able to learn it.
Amazing. Yeah, like videos that have assignment has like really a lot of better learning rate. I've seen like the problems I have with digital painting videos and YouTube is like, yeah, this is how you draw an eye, but like, how am I supposed to practice it? Do I draw it 50 times,
Right.
10 times? But yeah, what I've
Yeah.
done
Yeah.
from like schoolism and stuff like that, I used to go to like try the course before. Like the assignment thing is really important into like kind of nailing that in your brain so you don't forget it and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's like if you're trying to learn guitar, you don't play a chord once, right? You have to play it over and over again, move your fingers and go back, muscle memory kicks in, and then you learn the scales. And you don't do the scales only once, you have to do it over and over again. And that's kind of the mentality I had for building this course.
Awesome, amazing. Okay,
Mm.
so let's start at the very very basic, like in the beginning. When did you discover art and how you fall in love with it?
I mean, I think a lot of us just started with like early childhood cartoons and comics. For me, it was like Power Rangers, X-Men, Batman. Batman was actually the biggest one. I know you're a fan as well.
Mm.
Um, but like I remember like I could probably draw what I would draw in my homework every day. It's like a square with two triangles on it, and then like the
Nailed
two
it.
triangles for eyes. I'm like, it's Batman. So definitely that. Uh,
Were you still in
and then
Iraq at the time?
no, I was 2 years old when I left Iraq,
Oh,
so I was here in Ohio, in the States.
yeah.
After going to the refugee camp and all that, so that's its own story.
Mm.
But yeah, starting with comics and all that, but then just taking an interest on how do you do it all. And so I remember seeing um, some news show or some kind of TV show where an artist was like doing these sketch lines and then going over it with ink, and I'm like, oh, you could do that, and so I don't know. I just always had a curiosity about how to do it, and then from there went to art school, and actually no, I went to engineering school first, dropped out because I hated my life.
Did your
And I
parents
went
force you
to
to? Was it the same
not
picture?
really not really force, but it wasn't like art wasn't really clear as an option, and I didn't really think it was until later, because it was more like, all right, kid, what are you gonna do? Where are you gonna go? And so my brother was gonna go to that school, so I'm like, I'll do that too. And so I had no idea what I was doing in life. Um, what a waste of time and money. Oh my god.
You say that
But
again.
yeah, oh, but yeah, eventually, it just became about this obsession of wanting to know how to do things. I think a lot of people get into it these days for, I think, maybe the wrong reasons. Maybe not the wrong reasons, but reasons that
It's not the same.
maybe should be addressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, like ego reasons. Like, oh, I want to be a famous concept artist. I want to have a lot of followers, or
Celebrity
I want a lot
aspect,
of
yeah.
or money. It's like I never cared about the money. I just wanted to know how to draw the damn thing,
I mean,
and then money came with it.
the highest like amount of like I don't know who's the famous digital artist. Like Craig Mullins is like the far. I don't know. Is there somebody like more famous than that? And I'll bet you if he goes in the street, nobody knows who he is. Like,
That's the
yeah.
thing. Yeah, yeah. I was within the art community, especially the digital art community, at least with my generation. Craig Mullins definitely is up there. Jamie Jones and Daniel Dochu. But the thing is, you're right. When I was at Lightbox in LA in 2019, Craig Mullins was there. And afterward, me and Cynics were just walking outside the hotel, and there he was just walking, and he was like looking for his keys or something. He was like, I lost my, and people were walking by, and he's like this dude, like nobody knew him, nobody cared. And he was like, yeah, I got to go visit my parents. They're 2 hours away, so I got to make sure that these sunglasses are working nice. And because my eyes hurt. And I'm like, he's just a guy. But then if you have other people who, let's say, are more colorful in the eyes of social media, yeah, they're gonna be like, oh wait, can I get a picture with you? And, I don't know. That's fine to want that. It's social validation. We're social creatures, but for me, I just care more about the art.
Yeah, people who started back then were just wanted to get good. That was the whole
Mm-hmm.
like the whole purpose. And fame, I guess, came afterwards. Like people just discovered, and
Mm,
the industry took off, and like people discovered, yeah, you can actually make money with that. And then the whole
right.
YouTube thing come along. Yeah. So did you finish your degree, or you just went to art school after the engineering stuff?
I did finish my. So I went to. So it starts with University of Toledo. That was engineering. It was computer science, engineering, technology.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. I was so depressed, I dropped out. So I went back home, just 2 hours drive away, and I went to a community college because I needed to do something, which means like it's just you sign up for classes and you show up. There's a slight degree, I don't know, some kind of associates, whatever. And there was no teaching. It was more like you show up and you're just drawing. And I was better than the teachers, so I was like, what am I doing here? Um, and it was just a local small school. And then I went to Columbus College of Art and Design because I had gotten a scholarship for it, and that's here in Ohio.
Nice.
And that was for illustration. Still wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to art center. And I remember being at that community college, and right outside the art class was a big poster for Art Center College of Design. And I looked at it, I'm like, this could never happen. I could never go. There's no way. And, fast forward after Columbus College of Art and Design, I took a semester off to make a portfolio for Art Center. And I did that, and it worked out. And then I moved to California, and then the rest was history.
Oh, I was just imagining like Scott Robertson, the "We Want You" thing is like pointing at the poster, like in gold.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have gone, because you know he wanted me to be there in that group of students, and so he made it work with like financial aid and all that stuff. And I ended up graduating, and from there I worked in the industry and then came back to teach there. So
was the move pretty difficult for you, like especially California, the prices and stuff like that?
uh no, it wasn't too bad. I had since I had some connections from some online forums. You know, the Saigen speed paint forums back in the day, maybe? I don't know.
No.
Well, I knew some people from there, and one of them was a student, and I was in contact with him, and I'm like, hey, do you need a roommate? He's like, yeah, actually, my other roommate is an a-hole, and I want to move out. So he went and like found a place, and my dad helped me with rent for the first year. So, you know, thanks to him for that. But eventually things were pretty cushioned, I think, because I had connections. And so got the job. Like, actually, the first job was with Scott Robertson, because he was the teacher, and he usually hires students during the summer. And so I was doing that for a bit. So I was able to pay my way.
What was the position?
It was an intern, kind of, but it was more unofficial than anything. And it's like the first gig was he was hired by Hot Wheels or Mattel to do this storyboard illustrations to like show how a toy works or kids playing with the toy. So I just did that. I just, he gave me like 2 weeks to do it, and I was sitting there and I did it in like a couple days. I'm like, I'm done. It's like, well, now what? I'm like, we'll find something for you.
And with that mentality here, like if you work for Iranian people, it's like if you finish that in 3 days, they're gonna give you more projects, so you finish it like you'll have enough work to do it at the end of the week. So you never do shit on time when you know it. Yeah. And what did you do after? Like, did you apply? Did you send resumes to game companies? Would you even into games, or was it like the concept art was the route you were going for? Was it mostly concept art, or was it mostly illustration based?
It was a mix for sure. The gig I got after that was with Dylan Cole, who's currently the art director for Avatar 2. He did Lord of the Rings and stuff. And he wanted to do this movie pitch, and he needed character design. So I was doing concepts for character designs for his project, which later became a children's book. But I didn't apply. It was just, I worked for him because Scott knew him, and I worked for Rhythm and Hughes because Dylan knew them. And so, yeah, it really is who you know. Because if you think about it, if you're running a company and you have, you know, a couple artists and you need more, you ask those artists, hey, do you know anybody? Because I trust you and I know you're good. Like, do you know anyone? And that artist gives a list. And so from the list, people get hired. And it's more likely to get hired because, you know, if you trust someone you know over some random completely new person, unless they have an amazing portfolio, you know, companies tend to go with like what's safe, right? So and then from there I was working at Rhythm and Hughes, which was VFX design, and then from like basically concepting what VFX will look like. So I was on Snow White and the Huntsman, and there's a bunch of scenes where you know, she transitions into like a bunch of crows. It's like, okay, what does that actually look like step by step? So stuff like that I was doing. And from there it was theme park design. So that was a mix of illustration and concept, but mostly there'd just be like these SketchUp renders or 3D, and they'd say, okay, well, we need to sell this to the client, put some color and light in there, and Photoshop a bunch of people pointing at things and looking happy so that they buy our product. And then eventually, yeah, concept art and video games. That was for Guild Wars 2 after I graduated, because all those gigs were before I graduated during the summer.
At Guild Wars, did you get in as like a junior artist or as a senior, or what position?
Not a senior.
Senior, nice.
Well, it's funny because they reached out to me because I was recommended by somebody who I worked for, who ironically, when I worked for that guy, I remember I feel like I totally botched the job and didn't do too well. And I was like, oh my God, I just burned a bridge. And then it turns out he recommended me for ArenaNet.
Oh, there you go.
And I was there as a contractor. And what that means, you're not a full-time position. And what it means is like you're there as a temporary. And usually that's what companies do. Like, hey, you're here as either an intern or a temporary, and we'll get a feel for you. And eventually they're like, dude, you're really good. Let's make you full-time.
Nice.
And so I became full-time there, but not. I think technically a junior, not a senior.
Do you can you explain kind of the process of do you know, have any information on what is expected from a junior artist and then a senior artist? Did you kind of experience this while you were there?
I think it's just a matter of experience. Like you're kind of doing the same stuff, but the senior artist knows more of the pipeline and how the company works. And so you're going to be, because when you're starting out, when I started out, I had no idea what I was supposed to do. And, I sort of had to ask, like, wait, what do you need me to do? And if there's no guidance, you kind of have to figure it out, unfortunately. But we worked things out eventually. But whereas a senior, they've been in the company or a company, and they know how things work. They know who to talk to. They know how to work with the 3D artists and get things done. I think it's a matter of time and experience. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. And how was when you finished Guild Wars 2, did you still have to build portfolios for the next gigs, or you just stopped going to a company and just went full freelance?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever made a portfolio or resume and applied anywhere. I kind of just got lucky. Funny enough, when I graduated from Art Center, I didn't have a job yet. I had connections that I could have gone to or gone back to, but I didn't want to keep photoshopping people in theme parks. And so I started building a portfolio to send in for Disney animation. I wanted to do that. So I wanted to do viz dev and character design. And then that's when I got the email from ArenaNet. So, yeah, no, I didn't, because after ArenaNet, I just went full freelance, because when I started at ArenaNet was the same time. It was the same time that I started the YouTube stuff and Gumroad. And so if I didn't have YouTube, I would have never quit. And because I wouldn't have something to fall back onto. And so building that, I realized I don't need to work for anyone. I could just do things on my own. And so I did a couple freelance gigs here and there that paid really well. Because I at that point, when you have a big enough client list and offers, like you can say no to things, and that's kind of what happened.
Like
and
you can
there
say,
was
I'm set for a year. I don't need to accept more stuff like that.
Yeah, or like there's 3 offers at the same time. You're going to take the one that you either pays the most or one that you're willing to do. And some I was just like, there was this one gig where I really didn't want to do it. And so I remember I learned this lesson from school from Tim Flattery. He's a movie guy. He was talking about his wife, and she really, really didn't want to go to I don't know, Arizona for this one job. And he goes, all right, well, why don't you just give a really high price that you're actually willing to pay for, that you don't think they're going to say yes to. Give them a super high price and just see what happens. And so she did, and they said yes. And so she had to go and work on that job, but at least she's getting paid way more. So I did the same thing, and I said, in my mind, I'm like, I do not want to do this. And so I just charged a ridiculous amount. And they're like, yeah, sure. Yeah, come on board. We'll see you on Monday. I'm like, God, no. But at least I could, buy a PlayStation 4 with that,
Do you have a PS5 by the way?
No. My brother does, though.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, it's really hard to get those right now.
Yeah.
Speaking of YouTube, back then, I think it was 2012-ish. I was one of the main, my generation, the only access we had, especially in Iran, like we only had YouTube. And like I remember the first digital painting videos I found and I started like doing, it was Chris Oatley, if you know him, uh
Yep.
you, especially you, Cynics, and Cycra. Like this
Yeah.
was just every like I had every anatomy stuff I needed from Cycra. I had like, and Cynics was anatomy too back then. He was like doing a
Mm.
bunch of stuff. And like for the whole digital painting, the learning thing, like I was just learning Photoshop. I used to watch your videos and pause and see what you did. I didn't know how to use Photoshop. Like he's like, okay, the layering system, did he put it on multiply? Why did he put it on multiply? Like why did like I used to
Mm.
pause and just copy everything like a monkey. But like yeah, it was
That's
super
awesome.
good. Yeah.
And you got
And
really good.
uh and what made you decide to make a kind of YouTube video? Especially back then when it was just for fun. It wasn't like people were not
Yeah.
making it for money.
So in that case, it was because earlier I mentioned the art that I want to do isn't for money.
Yeah.
But when I got the offer to work at ArenaNet, I had to leave LA and drive to Seattle. So that's an 18-hour drive,
Oof.
right? I could have flown and whatever and shipped my stuff, but I love driving. I like long drives. And so on the way up, I was listening to a lot of audiobooks, and I got a lot of audiobooks on business because I'm like, okay, well, what do they have to say about making money? And I'm curious. One of them was called the 10x Rule by Grant Cardone, and it's a book.
Is
No,
this a
he comes from a
10,000 hour rule?
no.
Oh, okay.
It's different. That one is in the book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. So the 10x rule is, he comes from a real estate background, and this guy is talking about, hey, okay, so whatever your goal is, whatever it might be, getting a marriage partner or a house or making $1 million or making a product, whatever effort you think you need to do for it, it's actually 10 times that, right? And so I realized, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so behind. I need to do YouTube. I got to do Instagram. I got to set up my future, and so I felt really behind, and that's why I was like, well, okay, let me just make some YouTube videos and this and that. But also, what helps is, in the audiobook, he sounds like a military drill sergeant. He's like, you need to get going. You're really behind. And I'm just like, oh, yeah. And so, yeah, that's the story of that.
Awesome. So, and did you was it successful at first, the videos? Or
No. No, I mean, well, so I had already put up one video back in like 2006, a long time ago. There's no voice, no audio, no music. It's just a process, like a 5-minute clip. So that generated like, I think 1,000 subscribers. So I had something to start with. Yeah. And that's over like the span of like 10 years or something. No, I can't do math.
No.
Yeah, 10 years. Yeah. And so when I started posting, like, oh my God, you're alive. So it was a slow build up for sure. I didn't blow up like other people who are more colorful and flashy. It was more of like building a audience of people who are like me and not really interested in being entertained the whole time, So
yeah, the whole point of
yeah,
the YouTube stuff was like I don't know, I'm just kind of seeing it right now, but like we used to go to YouTube because you actually needed to learn something. It was just knowledge you were looking for. Entertainment was like,
yeah,
yeah, sure, it's funny, okay, whatever. But like
yeah,
people right now, they're like, if it was 90% like information and 10% humor, right now I'm feeling like it's kind of shifting towards the opposite side because just people get bored, and
yeah,
that's why like I feel like we have so much information in like this generation, and like people can consume as much as they want, but they will never like get that feeling of the old generation did.
yeah. It's like, and I get it. Um, like when I was learning early on, we didn't have YouTube, but I did somehow manage to get the some Noman DVDs, especially the one of Ian McKeag, visual storytelling. That was a game changer for me. It was mostly instructional, him drawing and sketching, and like I don't know if you've ever heard Ian McKeag, but it's like he's like a storyteller.
He can make a dog do concept art. The
Yeah.
way he talks about art, like even if like every time I quit art for like 2 months or so, I always come back with an Ian McKeag video.
Yeah.
Like everybody's like talking about the whole depression stuff like that. I don't know if you've seen like a bunch of the serious videos, and they're like, yeah, like the whole Naughty Dog stuff. I look at it, it's like mostly like, yeah, you have to do like 20 hours a day or whatever, or you'll never make it. And like when you hear Ian McKay, everything just shines up. Like you as well,
Exactly.
by the way. Like the whole
thanks.
the Medcast stuff is really helpful.
Cheers, man. Yeah, that's the thing. Like he brought to the table imagine there's a table. The people who bring to the table of you got to really work hard, 10x rule, you're really behind, and oh, if you want to be a concept artist at Naughty Dog, you got to do this, and it's depressing. It's like it works and to an extent, but it takes that childhood joy out of it, that sense of wonder, the reason we started in the first place, which is Batman and you know, action and story. Ian McKeag brings that back. He's like, all right, don't be afraid, you can draw. If you can dream, you can draw. And like it's more about the art. That's why it's so appealing. So going back to the whole entertainment thing, if I was 16 or 17 and starting out like taking art seriously, which is about when I was taking it more seriously, if I saw the stuff on YouTube today, I don't know how I would react to it. Of the whole like, I love Ethan Becker. In fact, he's sharing my course and he's in my course. There's a tidbit of him in there, but I don't know if I could watch his stuff. Like I'd be like, it's more entertainment than anything, and I just want like a bit of that, which is what Ian McKeag brings to the table. But you know, the whole like, I imagine it as a big marketplace, and there's some car salesmen. I'm not saying Ethan's a car salesman, who are louder and saying, "Do this and do that." I bet you, hey, come step right up. And I'm like, I don't want you. I want the guy who's making the art. And so that's Ian McKeag for me.
I mean, different people, different styles of teaching is kind of developing its own community. Like Ross Tran, for instance, like I remember like watching Ross a lot, and kind of he was more appealing to the kind of younger generation wise, but he got a lot. It's a lot of, it's really like anime and flashy, like his videos, but like still it kind of relates to his own community in a way.
Yeah, he we used to hang out a lot back in art center, and I took him under my wing and showed him painting and stuff. And I remember when he came over to my place, he's exactly like that. He was jumping around on the couch and like pretending he was a wizard, and so it carries over into his videos, and I could see why people like it. It's just I'm just getting too old for this, you know. Yeah.
I guess being yourself is kind of, it's just like he's not changing anything. It's just himself in the videos as well.
Yeah.
And what was kind of your main influence, like artist wise? Like I know you were under Scott, but like once you like started doing all the grind in art center stuff, like I would like imagine there was a lot of homework and stuff like that. Do you have like a kind of influence artist you kind of base your style off of, or who did you study for? Yeah, you're like kind of, you have a unique art style right now, so where did it kind of mostly come from?
Thank you. It's a mix for sure. You know, I mentioned Ian McKeag, but before him it was a lot of comic book artists. So we have J. Scott Campbell, Joe Madureira, also known as Joe Mad,
Darksiders,
Michael Turner, and Michael Turner, who did Fathom, he passed away. May he rest in peace. And then Luke Hollis, he was pretty big on conceptart.org with his sketchbook, beautiful line drawings, and I can't find them anywhere on the internet. Luckily, I saved them. But you know, Luke Hollis inspired a lot of my pencil work and looseness. And yeah, Craig Mullins. When it comes to painting, Craig Mullins.
Godfather of
Yeah. A bit of Jamie Jones, but mostly, yeah, that's definitely. And there's a bunch of other parents here and there, like John Singer Sargent and Zorn and Soroya, Charles Barg. Yeah.
And what do you kind of, in the whole learning situation right now, like with the whole too much information thing, what is the most like important tip you can think of, like you can tell people right now that are listening that will help them out a lot in the struggle that they're trying to start the whole art thing?
Take my course. Honestly, I think the biggest struggle is probably knowing what to do. You know, there's so much out there, like what order, where do you start? And that's kind of why I made the map for that. But I don't know, I'd say
having a clear path.
Having a clear path, and ideally you have a mentor, right? But we can't all do that, especially with so many students out there. A teacher can only take on so many students, but find professionals talking, well, kind of like this podcast. Like try to get different perspectives, and then find the person you like. It doesn't have to be me. It could be Anthony Jones. It could be whatever. And if it worked for him, it might work for you. So follow that path, and don't worry about missing out on if you're doing it right or wrong. As long as you're doing something, is what I'd say.
The mileage.
As long as you're moving forward, learning the thing, you'll be, I think, successful, however that might look for you. But I don't know, there's just another thing I could say is there's no one definition of success. You know, one definition could be, oh, I got hired at Riot Games. Cool, congrats, you did it. Another version of success is, I never worked at a big company, but I have a huge following and I sell stuff on Gumroad. That's success too. Or my art's not that good, but I built a big following because I share what I find on the internet, and I try, and I'm documenting my process of trying to get better. And because of that, I am sponsored by Wacom or whatever. So there's different forms of success, right? In terms of monetary success. But if you're looking for artistic success, that's just going to be tons of mileage and like learning, and like the willingness to let the world give feedback to you. So there's a couple ways to get feedback. One is you draw the thing and you look at it and you're like, ugh, I hate it. And that's actually a big reason why people don't do it, because it hurts to look at your first drawings and see that it's, oh God, this is really bad. Why am I doing this? I'm going to go be an accountant. But it's almost, I'd say it's scientifically proven. If you do 100 of them, your 100th one will be better than your first. And you could test it yourself. Go, try it. Now, pick anything. Draw an apple. Doesn't matter. And once you realize that works, you take that and you multiply it. And suddenly you get to a place where you're more confident with your work, your expression, your art. And then you'll have people asking you these same questions. How did you do it? And so it's a big cycle.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like one thing we were talking about before is like, I think in the whole art thing, one thing you should really learn is not to draw and not to do art. It is to actually, this is coming from Anthony Jones, by the way, it's to learning to learn. Like if you figure out how to learn, like it's just, the art thing is just like, it's the first thing you're testing this on. And if it kind of gives you results, you can kind of, the whole system, the formula and how to make like improvement, and you can kind of use it in anything else. It doesn't have to be art.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like knowing that the grind has like results at the end. There's light at the end of the tunnel. You can kind of just grind your way through.
Like that's exactly it. I mean, yeah.
No, go ahead.
And I think I learned that early on with guitar. My sister got a guitar for her birthday. It was like a cheap, learning guitar, meant for just figuring things out. And so she got it. She learned a couple of things, like how to play some notes, but she kind of just didn't really want to pursue it. And I'm like, oh, can I try it? How did you do that? Show me. Oh, okay. And I just took it over. And I just started looking at my favorite songs, and I'm like, okay, Metallica. Nothing else matters. All right, how do you do that? Oh, I'm so bad at it. But now, after just doing it over and over again, I can play songs if I wanted. But learning to learn right there was realizing that you have to start out bad. You have to put in the mileage of your first notes are going to be bad. Your first drawings aren't going to work the way you want it to. Your first paintings or your color or your designs are going to have intricate things that are just not, lining up with what you're imagining it to be. And that's your job as an artist and as a professional to figure it out. I think we tend to be hurt emotionally by that kind of feedback coming at you, which is, hey, it's not there yet, and it's not there yet, and it hurts. But that's something you have to learn to get over as a skill. Like, imagine
it's important to know, like, the feedback is coming from a place of actually caring. Like, there's a lot of feedback right now going on these days. It's like you either have to which kind of feedback you should listen to is like the whole thing here.
Yeah. I would say, yeah, that goes to the other thing I wanted to talk about, is like the other form of feedback, which is external feedback from other people. Now, I don't know, it's a touchy subject for me because I can't stand a lot of people on the internet who think they have this entitled right to go around and, your anatomy's wrong. Your colors suck. You can't draw squares. And it's like this dismissive, like, almost 4chan vibe, like, you're not good. And it's this projection of this negativity. And it's like they don't really have your best interest in mind. And what they say might actually be true. Like, yeah, maybe your perspective is off or your anatomy's wrong, but it doesn't help. It doesn't help to be an asshole. We don't need that in this population, this art community. And so, you could listen to that, and that could help you. And fair enough. But personally, I'm like, if you're that kind of person, I'm going to actively make sure I never, ever associate with you. I'll never recommend you for a job. I'll never hire you myself. I'll just categorize you with, this person's just a black hole of negative energy. Because to work professionally, the rule is, because I've hired people and looked at portfolios and brought people onto studios, you have to have great work and you have to be great to work with. So even if you think you're the best artist and you know what's wrong with the piece, if you're not great to work with, sorry, you're not going to make it, dude. You might get a job, and I've seen this happen. You'll last maybe a week, 2 weeks, 2 months, maybe. But if you start draining the energy, that's one of the worst things that could happen to a project. You have that one person who's just dismissive and judgmental and doesn't understand how to vibe socially with people. Which, if you're antisocial and introverted, that's fine. I'm that way too. But if you're actively being a jerk, in due time, people will avoid you, and you will no longer be working professionally at that place. Unless, of course, that whole place is toxic.
This kind of hits close to home. I had this in my college and stuff like that. But like, I think you kind of told me this, but like, the whole reason people come for the interview, they already got the job, and it's just like they want to see, the thing you mentioned, like, is this guy can work in a team and stuff like that.
Right.
But like,
and it's it's a bit more forgiving with art, because if you have really great work and you can work well with a team in terms of, hey, here's the prompt, can you do it? Oh, cool, you can do it, and you're kind of just shy and quiet. That's fine. But ideally, it's a bit more lenient because it's not as like professional as, let's say, an accountant job where you have to kind of wear a tie. You can go into work just wearing a shirt like this if you're, depending on the company. But imagine you're on the weekend, you're hanging out with your 5 friends because you're going to watch the new episode of whatever, Game of Thrones, whatever. And you got the snacks and the pizza and the drinks, and you're watching it together and talking about it. That's kind of the vibe that would be ideal for a creative studio.
Exactly.
where you're bouncing ideas, you're having a good time, everyone's relaxed. But if there's that one person there who makes everyone feel tension, it's not going to last. You know, it's like you want the creative energy to thrive, but if there's that one person or two people who are like bitter and like, well, I know better, like you're wrong, like no one wants to be around you, dude.
We have I'm working on a kind of small group of artists here, which is like we're kind of like we're kind of trying to build like a indie art company, which we kind of take jobs and stuff like that. So we have like
Nice.
yeah, so we have like people in the team. We have people like this. They don't talk. They don't know how to talk. Even in Persian, I'm not even talking about English. So we
Yeah.
kind of have like this art director, which is kind of our link to the client. So whatever, like we know how to talk to him, like kind of professionally, like you know, just casually to tell him our ideas, stuff we want to do. But he's like our kind of the middleman, and he kind of manages us to do the jobs. So like we have like on the anti-social stuff in some of our members as well. But like the thing we have here is somebody can kind of translate it well
Yeah.
to like the outside, and we want to do that.
Yeah. Great leadership can go a long way as well. Yeah, for sure.
And the thing you mentioned, like with kind of in the atmosphere you're trying to learn, I kind of discovered that I'm one of those anti-talent guys. Like I don't believe in talent, but like what I kind of saw, like in my experience and things I'm seeing, is talent is kind of what the good atmosphere you're learning it in. So if you're learning in a good atmosphere, that kind of we say I don't know, I call it like talent like that. Like if you're in a great space of learning, you can learn much better.
Yeah.
So people are like, yeah, you're like really good,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But like mostly like,
Yeah.
go for it, sorry.
No, keep going.
Nah, I'm done. Yeah.
Regarding the talent thing, for a long time, I also had that view where there's really no such thing as talent. It's just mileage, right? It's like how much work you put in a thing, of course you'll be better at it. But as I got older, I think there are some individuals who have a natural ability to pick something up, like music or sports or dancing, and it's just so natural to them that it happens at a way faster rate. But that doesn't mean that that person will succeed, because it still requires hard work over time. I don't think talent really matters in the grand scheme of things. It's like if you want to pursue something, you can get there, and you can build mileage and skills. Like it's like a skill tree in an MMORPG. You just figure the things out, and then you put your skill points where they need to be. Some people can do it faster. That's all talent is. And you know, it might, it shouldn't. I don't know. I don't think there's even a point to bring it up. Like it's like everyone's on their own journey. Everyone climbs the mountain differently. Some have an easier route because of whether they have privilege and they were born in an environment where they can thrive, and everyone around them was supportive. Like there's a lot of factors that play into it. You know, because if you listen to one of Ian McCaig's interviews, he talks about his childhood, and he's like, his parents were so supportive, and they would like trust him and validate him and say, "Oh, you're doing great. Oh, good job." Or, "Oh, we're gonna be gone on vacation. Have fun. Here's a camera. Make some films. Make some videos. We'd love to see what you do." And he would make radio shows with his friends and like perform and make art and draw dinosaurs, and everyone loved it. Most of us didn't get that, you know, especially from the Middle East. We have a culture of like, "What are you doing? Huh? Yeah. When are you being doctor? يعني when architecture engineer? شنو art يعني art is it's not a real job, you know." And so yeah, it really depends on the environment growing up, on your natural abilities, but you know, everyone can overcome whatever climb they have. And I love Dark Souls and Bloodborne as an analogy for this, because as you know, when I was playing Bloodborne for the first time, which is like a few months ago, I never really played these games, but the concept of
Welcome to my
you
universe.
go forward, yeah, nice, you go forward, you die pretty much immediately. And that's why I quit Bloodborne like when I first got it 5 years ago or 6 years ago, but Steven like showed me the light. And you go forward, you literally have to climb a ladder. You have to understand what it feels like to climb, die, and climb again. That is life. Like, you have to go forward, realize that the world is going to punch you in the face, and then you learn from that. And my theory is that, you know, in Bloodborne, how you have that one area of the sewers and the ladder that goes up towards Gascoigne?
Yes.
To fight him? Right. So that's such a good representation, because you're climbing out of this dark area to some sunlight, but it's dark again when you fight Gascoigne.
Did you get killed?
And of course. Yeah. But when I saw Steven handle it, I'm like, oh, okay, I just go around, stagger, and then visceral. But the thing is, like, that climb is so metaphorical, because there are so many things in life that'll keep kicking you down. And if your ladder in your life is way longer than other people, let's say, like, like you and I were both from countries that have wars and weird rules, and it's like a lot of people have trauma and all that stuff. So that's one ladder lower, because we have to climb a little bit higher. Some people are born without the ability to see color. They're colorblind. That's another part of the ladder. Or they had abusive family members or whatever. So that ladder for them becomes way longer. Other people might have just a short climb. But for those who have to climb higher, all the things you learn on this climb make you able to climb even higher when you're up here, because you learn the skills of what it takes to do work. Whereas people who only had to climb this much kind of get over here, right? They might get a little bit higher, but I think the skills that you develop in the Dark Souls way, in your deaths, you use later when you're above that threshold. And I've discovered that pretty clearly in my life. So,
and you kind of, the whole thing with the ladder, people who climb the most get better at climbing, I guess. And then
yeah, exactly.
It's just the cards we get in life. Thing you mentioned in Dark Souls, Dark Souls is like, you kind of need somebody to be your guide in a way. Like, my first time was horrible, and I played the worst Dark Souls. It was like Dark Souls 2. But like,
oh, you started with 2.
Yeah, some rip in chat.
That's funny. Yeah.
But like, chat, dude. One thing I don't kind of, the whole thing with I was gonna talk about is, when you trying to learn, like you said, you know what you want to do, but I'm gonna bring it forward to like, know what job you want to get in a way. So like, kind of, we want to kind of see the similarity between this and like, let's say Dark Souls or video games, is like, what I'm noticing when you put your talent trees in video games, it's like mostly you can kind of, still play the game if you know how to build the talent tree, like to kind of, take advantage of it. That's great. But like in art, what I'm noticing is you just have to one trick something, and like it's kind of, people are just looking for like, this guy does cars, done, instead of like, I can draw everything, but I draw everything pretty average in a way. What do you feel about this?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because especially with what you're exposed to on social media, you might have all of these assumptions that you have to learn this, you have to learn that, you have to be a god at this, you have to be a pro at this, you have to learn Blender, you have to learn ZBrush, you have to be able to do this and do that. But really, like, when you're pointing at those things, it's like, okay, Kim Jong-gi can do this, Craig Mullins can do that, this person can do. If you put Kim Jong-gi, Ian McCaig, Craig Mullins, Jamie Jones in the same room, and I said, okay, Kim Jong-gi, you're one of the best artists in the world, do a painting like Craig Mullins. He'd be like, oh, it's not my thing. I could try, but it's not going to be like his. All right, Craig Mullins, you're the grandfather of digital painting. All right, here's a big white sheet. Do what Kim Jong-gi does. He'd be like, I could try it, but it's going to be garbage, right? Okay, Ian McCaig, you're one of the best storytellers. All right, paint like Jamie Jones. Well, I am an art, so like, each one has their own specific one trick, as you said, and we can call it a mastery. And so, mastering your thing is what you should do. And I agree totally. I actually don't even know what it is that I want to master yet. I've gotten good at so many things because I was under the mindset of I have to do everything.
Your style is like, I don't know how to see. I think you're the only person I know it's doing concept illustration. It's like it's not quite fine, like it's not super high detail for like illustration, but it's not super loose as a concept art. It's like the whole best of two universes together. What I'm seeing, it's like you see the whole picture, but it's like it's still the composition makes the less detailed areas make you go towards the place you want to see in the focal point.
Right.
You know
it's because I'm lazy. But if you want to learn how to do that, take my course and I show you exactly how.
Link in the description. Yeah. All right. And finally, what is like? What was the kind of great mentors you have? You mentioned Scott, and like a bunch of other talented artists. Do you have somebody special you wanna shout out and kind of thank, like in your journey on becoming like the great Ahmed Aldoori?
So I could list off a bunch of names of teachers I had, like Scott Robertson, Sam Medschlap. I learned a lot from. He was from DreamWorks and all that. Luke Mayrand and Farzad, who's actually Persian.
Yep.
They were my teachers at Art Center. But I can't really point to one person I knew personally as a mentor, but rather the collection of people becoming a meta mentor. So mixing Ian McCaig with Craig Mullins, with Luke Hollis as like, oh, what would they say? And it's sort of like kind of like a Jedi thing where they're kind of a ghost Jedi and they're there like, what would they tell me? And they sort of taught me things. I know it sounds like deranged, but really that's probably a meta mentor. And so shout out to all of them. And I think the person I learned from the most was probably myself. Like, I know it's weird to say that, but early on I didn't have a teacher. And so I had to learn how to learn on my own. And so I remember being in like 17 or 18, graduating from high school. I don't know what I'm doing. I went to do the engineering thing. I hated it. Came back to my parents' home, and I was in my basement while at that community college where there wasn't really any teaching. I was like, I want to learn how to paint. And so I got oil paint. I got paper. It wasn't even canvas. I looked at like some paintings. I'm like, how did they do that? Oh God, this is horrible. Okay, I'll try again. Oh God, I'll try again. And I think I learned the most from the obsession of wanting to do it without having anyone to hold my hand.
And the thing is, like, you don't really, I did the same thing you just mentioned, like the whole oil painting thing. You kind of expect yourself you expect it to look like shit, basically, right? And but you do it, you know. It's doing a sketch in digital paint as well. Like, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do something in 10 minutes, and you're never gonna hate what you do. Because if you like it, it's like, yeah, I did that in 10 minutes. If you hate it, you're like, yeah, well, I did that in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, when I was doing that, I was definitely hoping it would look good the first time, but it never does.
I tried to, I don't know if you know Nina Dobrev. She's like the celebrity I liked. She was in the Vampire Diaries and stuff, like old school stuff. Okay. So I tried to do, like, kind of draw her first, and then it ended up, like, I have to speak really quietly here because my mom's listening, but like, it ended up looking like my mother. So I gave it to her. I'm like, yeah, I drew you. And she was like, thank you.
Oh my God.
And yeah.
Nice.
All right. And yeah, I think anything else you want to talk about, Ahmed? Anything?
Sure. No, this is such a fun chat. I'm glad we got to talk again.
Thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely, man. Thanks everyone for watching, and yeah.
Yeah. Anything you wanna? Can you let us know where we can find you? Where we can find the course and whatever. Just
if you just go to, I gotta figure out a better way to do this, but the course is Meds Map, so MEDS MAP, because it's my map. .mykajabi.com. So that'll be hopefully in the description. I'm talking to them so I can get rid of that My Kajabi part. So we'll figure that out. Or Ahmed Aldoori _art on Instagram. You can find me there. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
And definitely check out Ahmed's YouTube, like the amount of knowledge
right.
there. Yeah, it's amazing.
I forgot I do YouTube as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Ahmed, and we'll see you again soon, hopefully. And yeah, thanks for coming. Later.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Bye.